A young man was walking to his apartment when he saw a paper demanding 3 months' rent that the landlord had pasted on the door. Then he went into the house and checked his cryptocurrency investment situation, but all the indicators were stuck in the ground. At this moment, he received a message from a saved phone number that was a flag boy announcing that this day had arrived. But this old man just put the phone on the table and went into the bathroom, not paying attention to the phone call that the flag guy was calling. After a while, after taking a shower, the young man turned on the TV and continued to research which investment method could make the most money. But he was constantly disturbed by the flag man who continued to disturb his research path to get rich, which made him extremely uncomfortable. Suddenly at this time, the door was open again. A gypsy big man just walked in and called the person who owed him 130 million. Then the big man asked this debtor to sit down calmly and ask, "Why did I call but you refused to answer the phone?" when this debtor was babbling looking for an excuse. Then the gypsy big man slammed his head hard on the table. Noticing that this debtor saved his name on his phone with the affectionate nickname of Flag, the big man immediately threw a punch. After a while, the debtor was also taken to a place full of blood and scalpels. The big man went to the operating table and removed the debtor's head sack. The young man also saw an operation being performed at the next table with a liver removed from that body. When the West big man asked the debtor to experience that feeling to clear the debt, this young man kept begging. Shidaku immediately used the debtor's fingerprint to unlock his phone, then set a warning within 30 days and tell, "If you still don't pay me at the end of 30 days, all the parts in your body will be taken away to save other people's lives." So the young man who was in debt nodded sharply in tears and kept making promises. After a while, this young man was also thrown out of the car in the middle of the road with his head covered. So he couldn't figure out where the slaughterhouse was just now, and he struggled to leave. The next morning, when he woke up, this young man noticed that the debt repayment warning on his phone had been reduced by 1 day. So he was also aware that everything that happened last night was not a dream. After that, he continued to work at a goods distribution company to make a living for a while after lunch break. Then this young man accidentally saw the patriarch firing a bride in a sloppy hat, with the reason that he is a newcomer to work. The bride in the hat also said that because I am Chinese of Korean descent, I was fired by him, right? Currently, my child is very sick, so I need money for his treatment. But the patriarch said that this month, the project to cooperate with the prison run will also end. Suddenly, the young man who was secretly observing saw that the patriarch was being used by force by the other shipmen, and he also pulled out a knife. But then he also let go of the patriarch because he only followed the orders of his superiors. And the young man in debt is also very resilient to the ferocity of the bride in the hat. After that, this young man proceeded to surf his contacts. But all the poor people are very poor, so they can't choose anyone to ask for help. Suddenly, I saw the bride wearing a hat when she called her wife and children who were in China, and promised to send the money back as soon as possible. So this young man immediately called the bride in the hat a ship. But he noticed the dragon tattoo on the shipman's hand and searched for it. Then I realized that it was a tattoo of the transnational criminal gang of the Triad. At this time, when he received his father's phone, the young man immediately suggested, "Transfer the money to me right away," but the person on the other end of the line is a strange voice. Immediately afterwards, this young man also wore a short yawn and took a car back to his hometown to visit his father who was in the hospital. When he arrived at the hospital, he saw his father sleeping. But he only called out a few times without touching his father's body. At this time, a guy came up and asked his son to go out to negotiate. After that, this guy also explained that because his father rushed to the front of the car, I couldn't carry it in time, and it's just a slight collision. But the son paid attention to the brand of this expensive sports car, and asked about the feedback of the car insurer. The car owner also told the insurance company that they couldn't solve it for me, so I want the two of us to negotiate ourselves. The young man in debt immediately shouted loudly to make it difficult. So the car owner immediately gave a money envelope to compensate and announced that there was 5 million won inside. Immediately afterwards, the son immediately gave his father 3 million won and told, "The guy who crashed the car is a classmate from the same school as me. Now he is having a hard time, so there is no need to make it too difficult for people. Although he rides a good car, he doesn't borrow from the bank." The father saw the bruise on his son's face, so he immediately asked, "Who did you go to fight with? Why do you have a head and you're making trouble all day?" Suddenly, the father was in pain again, so he asked his son to go home and get clothes for his father. When the son offered to collect 3 million won, the father did not pay it. At this time, a woman who lived in the same church with her father came to visit. So the son immediately said contemptuously that his life is too happy now, haha. For a few months he hasn't paid my rent. Turns out that it is all poured into this place. When the son left, the father immediately apologized to his friend for not knowing how to teach his son properly. The son walked out and put on the car owner's shoulder and announced that my father had agreed to the negotiated amount. But the son did not allow the car owner to leave and used his nostrils to sniff and said, "The smell of alcohol was not so, there was foam beer in his body, but he also arranged the driver, gave me an additional 3 million. I promise to keep this a secret for you. If not, go to the ward and explain." The car owner heard it and helplessly went to the ATM to withdraw money. It makes young people who are in debt very happy. Then he went to his father's house but did not know the password to enter the house. When I heard my father say that it was my and your mother's birthday, the noble son didn't know what day it was. So the father had to read out the password to enter the house. After that, the son began to get personal thick things for his father. But he did not forget to search to see if he could find any rice. And also actually got a Rolex watch and put it on his hand. After a while, he found some money saved by his father, so he immediately put it in his pocket. Suddenly he saw an insurance policy and read it and realized that if his father died due to illness or accident, then the immediate relatives will benefit 500 million yuan. After a while, this noble son began to wish for the amount of 500 million yuan. But he was not patient enough to wait for the day when his father would automatically beetle nut his grandparents. "If I don't pay the debt in a month, I will be slammed right away," the father of the guy who caused the accident. "I've already crashed into the car, but I don't make it until I get to the place to hide." Suddenly, he was called back by 3 boys and asked me to buy some cigarettes for us. The uncle also realized that these 3 young people were attending his high school in the past, so he immediately told him, "The Hua family has always only trained the souls of the parties, right?" The uncle also gave a package of medicine to make a lure and sprinkled it on his face to correct these tiger students. Then fighting a brick caused the 3 young Chow to also run away and lose their sandals. So the uncle immediately kicked a trash can to express his dissatisfaction with this bad neighborhood. After walking for a while, he studied how to evade inheritance tax from life insurance. Then the uncle was suddenly attacked from behind by 3 boys earlier, causing the uncle to fall to the ground. The 3 young Chow began to rummage through the body of the senior uncle to collect cigarettes. When they saw the Rolex watch, they immediately tried to peel it off. But the uncle resisted too strongly, so the 3 of them immediately turned the uncle into a sandbag for them to vent their anger. After that, the 3 quickly left and accepted to let go of the watch. Soon after, this debtor uncle was also taken to the pig slaughterhouse to prepare the body, and was questioned by a cutting machine. But that's just a nightmare that young people in debt are facing. At this time, he also checked the repayment schedule and found that his body would be intact for another 28 days. Suddenly, he heard his father reprimanding the police. "Because my son was lying on the street for several hours without being seen." The police also said that because there were very few people passing by that road, there were no security cameras in that area due to limited budgets when the son removed the teleportation cord. Then the father and the policeman immediately ran in, and the police were going to ask about the person who attacked the son. But he said he didn't remember and walked out of the hospital. When he went outside, the son remembered what the police had said to his father. There are no cameras in that area. So he jumped the number in his head and made a phone call to a friend to ask for information about the Chinese man of Korean descent who had just been fired. And he also found a tape recorder. After a while, this person also called back to provide the address. So the dead young man immediately went to a junkyard and saw a group of people drinking here. Suddenly, the Chinese man appeared behind him and said, "That group of people specializes in removing spare parts on old Korean cars. Then sell them through the Chinese border. Today must be a trick for them, so they celebrated like that. If he didn't sell the car, it would be gone. Because they don't like to have strangers in the area." The young man in debt immediately called the name of this Zhuzhong man and said, "We used to work in the same company. I heard that you need money, right? Wanna play a big game? As long as I make this case last, I will give you a large lump sum of about 60 million. Ask him to help me with one person." The bride-in-law also asked him who he wanted me to kill. Then the young man in debt immediately said it was my father. Then start drawing up a plan for action. Every Friday, my old man used to visit the professor in Guha. In order to get to that church, he was obliged to pass through a dark alley. So you can just treat him in that alley. But he had to set up the scene as an accident and not let it look like a murder. Because then I will be the first suspect. Whenever my father came, he just drove the car and hit him. That alley does not have security cameras. So no one knows if it is accidental or intentional. So people only think it's a case of a liar running away. The insurance is 200 million and you will be divided 60 bulbs to 30. When he received the money, he just got on the ship and went back to China. When the bride turned her hat to feel doubtful about this promise. Then the young man in debt immediately announced that he had recorded the conversation. So we're in the same boat. The bride turned her hat and immediately stood up and poured a glass of lying wine. I liked this case so much that I believed in your plan. The next day, the debt young man went to the hospital to check his wounds. When he walked outside, he saw the bride and groom spinning their hats sitting outside. So he sat down in front of this Chinese man. When he went to check out, he immediately wrote something on the paper. Then he threw the paper to the old man. He opened the paper and read it with the content that he was crazy. Later, when he went out on the street, the debt young man immediately rebuked the Chinese man. Because he went to the hospital to look for me again. The bride turned her hat and immediately showed off that I have many compatriots here. So I know a lot of information. The sum insured is not 200 million but 500 million, right? If I get 30, it will be about 150 million. The young man in debt was full of frustration. But then he also asked the bride to turn her hat and go out tomorrow night. If you do a good job, I will pay you 150 million, not less than one dong. The Chinese guy also said that if you dare to do anything, I won't leave you alone. When this old man left, the debt young man immediately whispered, "Who do you think you are to ask for 150 million from me?" The next night, the debt young man deliberately invited a friend of his to go to the bar, in order to create an alibi for himself. But it was not yet time for the incident to happen. After a while, the friend received a phone call from his wife at home. So immediately notify the young people in debt. My child at home suddenly had a fever, so I had to go home urgently. Although the debt young man said that he had prepared a full karaoke room, the youngest brother served. But this friend was still determined to go home because of the scolding. Young people in debt immediately checked the time, and decided to go to the karaoke room alone until more than 10 p.m. After that, I suggest that the two of you must remember your face carefully. At this time, it was raining again, but it was not yet the golden hour to act. So this young man continued to go to a fast food store and ordered a portion. When he sat at the table, this elderly man deliberately created a feature, so that the staff of the store must remember her face. At this moment, the father was also walking alone in the dark alley. Immediately afterwards, he was hit hard by a car. The Chinese man also got out of the car to check on the situation. Until the next morning, the mischievous son also woke up at the fast food restaurant and received an unsympathetic look from the staff of the restaurant. After that, the villain was lying at home watching TV and waiting for a phone call from the police, but only received a phone call asking to pay the credit debt. When he arrived at work, the villain tried to find out if there was a hitandron, and he found nothing, but then he also received a phone call from the police informing him his father had encountered an ear bite and did not survive, inviting him to come to identify the body. When this guy heard it, he also tried to express a sad face for the right song. After that, he hid in the toilet at the police station to cry and constantly call dad. But that's just a rehearsal to get emotions. And this has also caught the eye of a patrol policeman. After a while, after seeing his father's body, the villain repeated what he had rehearsed earlier. The policeman was also extremely emotional when he went outside. The policeman also said, his father was hit by a car on the road last night. So the son immediately pretended to express his frustration because the police could not catch the perpetrator. When him out on the street now, there are cameras everywhere. But the policeman said, I think someone deliberately drove the car into his father. We were able to find a witness to the accident. The perpetrator drove the car into his father once, but instead of stopping the car or running away, he reversed the car. His actions were clearly deliberately killing his father. When the mischievous beast heard it, he began to be confused at this time. The witness aunt was also walking over. So the villain also realized that this was the woman who had visited his father the day before. And last night, this woman accidentally saw when her father was hit by a car. Then the bride who turned her hat came down to check on his condition. When discovered by this man, her grandmother immediately ran away and left the cream cake on the road. At this time, The witness was also invited into the room by the police patrol to identify the victim's body. And the policeman also took a look at the victim's son. After that, the adversary asked his father, "Will my father's case be concluded to be a car crash and then run away? Because my father has never had any grudges against anyone, it cannot be intentional murder." Suddenly, the policeman revealed another extremely suspicious detail. If a person is really hit by a car, it is impossible to be pushed to the ground, because his father's body was found in a mountain, and the perpetrator killed his father to mourn. When the villain heard it, he could only scream in disgust, and began to blame the shipwrecker for not understanding what he had done. And this morning, there was a female streamer who took on the challenge of sleeping alone in the mountains. When she woke up, she began to pack her thick bags to leave and return to the whole process of moving down the mountain. Suddenly she saw a dog picking up something, and then the dog ran away. So the female streamer came over to check if the dog had sniffed something. And the girl was startled when she saw a face appear beneath the soil. Back in time the night before, there was a guy with glasses sitting at a restaurant. And this guy's life motto is that men who work hard to earn money are to get the woman they want. After a while, the new girlfriend also came. After chatting happily together, this girl also took off her coat and went to the toilet. So the Sang-hun guy couldn't help but be interested in this girl's sexy body. When the dinner was over, Sang-hun announced that he would take his girlfriend to a cafe for dessert. But this girl told me that I was craving something else, then whispered in my boyfriend's ear, "I want you not to be away from me tonight." Sang-hun heard it and began to look at it. Since today was Friday, the hotel probably didn't have a guard. So the girlfriend strongly suggested that she go somewhere quiet to be interested in acting. So the Sang-hun guy also invited his girlfriend to get into the car. After that, the two went to a hotel in a secluded place. The Sang-hun guy started putting a pill in his mouth to increase his strength for tonight. My lover also said that I had been here once because at that time I went hiking with a friend. Climbing is my hobby. Afterwards, I invited my boyfriend to drink with me a glass of wine brought back from the Dharma. But Sang-hun refused because he had just taken the medicine and had to wait another 3 hours before he could drink. So the girlfriend immediately kissed this guy's lips, causing the flame of love to start burning. So he immediately said he would drink a glass of wine. Late that night, when everything between the couple had taken place, then the girlfriend received a phone call, so she immediately informed her boyfriend. My best friend's father had just passed away, so I had to go. My lover also said that he would book a car to wait for me to go. Anyway, I was already drunk, so I couldn't drive. The girlfriend immediately appeared sulky and announced that she would go out alone to catch a taxi herself. So the Sang-hun guy immediately said that there are no police now. Let me wait for you to come to the funeral home. After that, the girlfriend was also carried away by her lover and texted to inform everyone of the sad news. The girlfriend also apologized to my lover because I was angry with you earlier. She began to touch and praise her boyfriend. You were as strong as a buffalo just now. So the boyfriend also told about the traditional medicine pill that helped him burn his chest like that, seeing his boyfriend yawning. So the girl immediately touched her hand underneath to help her lover wake up and offered to climb her lover's mountain right in the car. After that, he always kissed his lips to help his boyfriend get rid of drowsiness. Although his lover showed signs of losing the steering wheel, the girl still refused to stop. Suddenly, the car hit something, so the guy went to kiss and stopped the car. The lover immediately asked him if he hit a deer, right? But the boyfriend said that he seemed to have hit someone, and then he walked out. And he ran to check on the person he had hit, but he was no longer breathing and his pulse was no longer beating. When her lover was about to call the ambulance, the boyfriend stopped him and told him that he had yeast in him. If you call someone over, your life will be over. Drinking alcohol while driving is already wrong, and now you will hit people. Then do you think the police will arrest you? The lover immediately asked him not to yell at him like that. So this guy also gently apologized and blamed for being forced to drink by his girlfriend earlier, while he was showing agitation. Then the girlfriend found that someone was coming. A car passed by but suddenly stopped. Then he reversed the car and asked, "Did your car have an accident?" When I heard that he wore glasses and said that my car slipped while hugging a corner, then this boy immediately asked for help. At this time, the body of the man who was hit was also hidden in a corner. The Sang-hun guy also found an excuse to chase this man and woman away. Suddenly, the guy in the car offered to whisper in his hand and asked if there were any hotels nearby. So Sang-hun also refers to the hotel where I just acted. So this couple also drove the car. But the guy behind the wheel asked the girl sitting next to him if he had taken any pictures. It seemed that there was also a woman in that car. At this time, the Sang-hun guy decided to open the trunk of his car to take out his golf club bag. Then he tried to pull the other man's body, then loaded it into the trunk of the car. When he closed the trunk of the car, he immediately informed her lover, "We're gonna carry him on a cold and swollen night like this. A wandering old man suddenly disappears. No one will care." The lover also loudly prevented this illegal act. But the Sang-hun guy affirmed that this was the most reasonable way at this time. "Whoever lives must continue to live, we will drive up the mountain." I woke up and I was traveling in her. And suddenly we both saw a cyclist nearby. When this person went full speed to drive away, then the man with glasses immediately ran after him to tie the other guy off the bike, causing him to also lose consciousness with some blood on his head. But he was still breathing, so the man with glasses immediately carried this guy to the trunk of the car with the other man, and told her lover, "I can't let myself have witnesses here," then asked the girlfriend to get in the car together. After that, the car also quickly started and went to a mountain. When she arrived, her lover immediately asked, "What are you going to do to the cyclist just now? You're going to kill him." He wasn't that kind of person, and now the guy who drove the bicycle also woke up and found a corpse next to him, so he immediately screamed for help. The man with glasses immediately took out a golf club. As soon as he opened the axle, he immediately used his hands to punch and picked up a golf club. So this guy also promised that I wouldn't tell anyone about this. "I really haven't heard anything, so please let me go." But the man with glasses kept punching and said, "If I killed one person, it would be no different if I killed another person. Read your account number for me." So this guy also read his bank account number and received 10 million troops immediately afterwards. So the man with glasses also said, "Now that you and I are accomplices, if anything happens, we will both pile up the beams. You should thank your grandparents for saving your life from me. Go out quickly." This guy also got out of the trunk and thanked him softly and was about to turn his back and leave. But the guy with glasses said that "You have already taken the money, you have to work." After that, this guy also lifted the body of the old man out of the trunk of the car and followed behind the bespectacled man when he found the right position. Then the man with glasses immediately used a golf club to dig and suggested that the guy who came with him drop the corpse to cover it and dig it up. Suddenly, the bespectacled man tore his hand when he scratched the ground, so he immediately ordered the witness to continue digging. After a while, a hole was also formed, so the man with glasses immediately pulled the old victim down. When the witness suggested that he dig a little deeper, the bespectacled man asked him to fill in the soil. So both of them are eager to complete the rest of the stage. After that, the two also returned to the car and noticed that there was no drop of water left to drink. So the man with glasses immediately blamed his lover for not knowing how to leave water for him. Suddenly, the witness said, "It seems that 10 million is always a bit small. I want to receive another 10 million. The guy wore glasses at the beginning of his hair and decided to transfer an additional 20 million. In order to silence this witness, he also drove the car away. The next morning, the kisser drove the wandering girl home, and also gently guided the girlfriend to take a shower and rest and not worry too much. But he suffered a great wound in his hand. After that, the witness also came out and asked softly, "You haven't transferred money to me, right?" The guy kissed and immediately took out his phone to transfer 20 million yuan to this guy, and realized that he only had more than 3 million yuan left in his account. After that, asked the witness to keep this matter secret. And this guy also nodded to make a sincere promise and quickly left. And the kisser got into the car and was extremely disturbed when he turned into a criminal overnight because of the girl. After that, he also took the memory card on the car's dash cam. Suddenly, the witness came back to ask for more money and took a taxi home. So the name wearing glasses must also meet the requirements. After that, the kisser took the car to Gaza for repair and was priced at nearly 5 million won. After that, he had to take the bus to go to work and search to see if the body burial at Shogun Mountain has been found a while after entering the workplace. Suddenly, a man and a woman drove by the night before and kept taking pictures. When she got married, she went to her traditional medicine clinic. The camera doesn't stop working until it can't shoot anymore. Kissing proceeded to write the corpse on his hand with a burning sensation that surged to the brain. At this time, the patrol police also asked the victim's son, "Please provide your schedule for the day your father had the accident." So the villain also agreed to recount his schedule that night. The policeman immediately went to meet the two hostesses of the karaoke bar to verify. Indeed, he also went to the karaoke room. When the policeman showed the picture, the employee of the fast food restaurant also said, "That night, this person bought a hamburger and sat until morning before coming back." The policeman then asked why she could remember his face when there were so many guests coming in and out. But the employee didn't know why she could remember his face. At this time, the villain also went to the life insurance company and sadly announced that my father had just died due to an accident. When checking the records, the employee asked this customer to wait. Since his application was in the process of being appraised, the villain also happily sat down in his chair and waited. And ignoring the call of the Chinese man who was calling. After a while, the employee welcomed customer number 68, while the adversary is number 46 and still has to wait. When the other employees had left work, the new employee received a phone call and asked customer number 46 to enter the room to do the check-in. The villain walked into the room to meet the head of the room, but I didn't expect that this was the owner of the car that the villain had taken money from the day before. The head of the department also announced that we are currently unable to pay the insurance for him, because it has not yet been verified that it was a simple traffic accident, or a deliberate attempt to murder his father to profit from insurance money. When the villain heard it, he shouted loudly when his father had died and had not yet received the money. So the head of the joint department will report to the police and tell. If you keep thinking like that, it will only make your father's case process longer. You have to be polite to me so that I can have sympathy and try my best. When the villain heard this, he gently pulled the chair back and apologized for being a little too much when we met at the hospital. After that, the manager gave the company's gift bag to the customer and asked him to wait patiently. So the villain also walked out and threw away the useless gift bag and packed the garbage. At this time, the police officer was also present here and entered the insurance company. Then the villain went to the funeral home and found that there were only 16 days left until the debt was due. At this time, the manager of the funeral home announced that he had not received the deposit yet. We need a deposit to prepare food and drinks for visitors and do many other procedures. So the villain immediately asked this manager to step into the elevator together and gave all the money for the eulogy at his father's funeral and asked him to remember to return the box. Her grandmother was very upset with this action of her nephew and said, "Your father likes to live alone, but the visitors don't get much. It was also because of you that he had to cut off contact with everyone and retreat to do charity alone at the poet's house." After that, her grandmother also asked the villain to go out to ask visitors. This guy walked out of the dining room and noticed that the Chinese man was eating and drinking enthusiastically. He also said that because he didn't answer the phone and didn't come home, I came here to see him. When the villain asked him what kind of status he had to come here, the bride turned her hat and immediately replied, "What kind of status do you have to claim to be the master of the ceremony?" When the two of us went out to talk together, the Chinese guy told me that I had already taken care of it. So now you pay for it. The villain was full of frustration and asked why you didn't keep the scene. Who borrowed you to go to the bell of the corpse in the mountain so that this case was lied to blindly? It's also because of you that I'm suspected now, bastard. The Chinese man immediately said that he had not loaded it at that time and had seen my face. Whatever you do, something unexpected will happen. But the amount agreed upon at the beginning has not changed. If you don't pay, I don't predict how the number of people will increase. When the villain was about to attack, he was punched in the stomach by this guy. He immediately turned on the recording to replay the words that the villain had hired to kill the poor father. Then he told me to give you until the weekend to prepare the money. At that time, I'll give you this recorder. Then he walked away and thought about hiring someone to kill his father. What a scoop. At this time, the police officer was also observing from a distance and decided to follow the guy in the hat and get on the bus with him. Then go to the city of Patsu. After a while, the policeman also followed this guy to the old parking lot and sneaked inside to catch cilantro. Noticed that the other guy was drinking with the others. So the policeman immediately squeezed into the place where the Chinese man was. And he also found out. Later, when he found the recorder, the Chinese man also walked back to the car. And the policeman managed to get out of the junkyard. But suddenly he was blocked by the vegetable guy with a hat. The policeman was about to gently pass by. But this guy called me back to borrow a lighter and told me, "I saw you in our junkyard just now, didn't I?" The policeman also said that I was in need of some spare parts to come in there to ask. But I saw that you guys were drinking music, so I went back. Maybe you'll come back for another meal. The Chinese man immediately called this guy back to return the lighter. But he suddenly strangled the policeman and retrieved the recorder. He immediately thought that it was the unfilial man who sent this person. So he immediately pushed the policeman to the ground, and then wrapped the net around his neck, and squeezed hard until this boy could no longer reach the fields. At this time, when he checked his identity papers, he knew that this was a policeman. The Chinese man immediately looked around, and see a camera pointing straight in your direction. So the guy immediately dragged the policeman away. Now the unfilial man was also going home, and then he received a message from the Chinese guy. Contains a photo of the police officer's title card and a picture of him lying motionless. At this time, the shipman called again, so the villain immediately asked, "Why did you kill that policeman?" The shipman immediately announced that I would go back to China tomorrow. You have to prepare money before I go. The villain immediately said that I haven't even gotten the insurance money. Then where can I dig up the money and give it to you tomorrow? The bride in the hat immediately warned, if you don't give the money, you will end up like that policeman. If you want to live, you have to bring the money to me tomorrow and hang up the phone. It made the villain angry all over his body because he had been cornered to the end. So he immediately took out the hammer and was determined to take revenge on his father, and forget who caused his father's death. When the evening came, Sang Hun continued to text to ask her lover, and spoke up to borrow a little money to pay for car repairs, until the next day while caring for a patient. The doctor agreed that he still did not receive a response message from his girlfriend. After a while, the lover also texted me asking me to call me back. So he immediately went to the people to gently borrow money from his girlfriend. Even if you promise this week, you will have money. And agreed when the lover suggested that we temporarily stop contacting each other. When he hung up, he immediately whispered, "Why did you force me to drink alcohol? So I just went to the farm. How do you think I have to bear it all?" After that, Sang Hun returned to the clinic and asked not to receive patients for another 30 minutes. After that, the doctor continued to right his wounds and gritted his teeth to endure the pain. Suddenly, someone walked in, and it was the witness who had received 30 million won. After that, the witness who repeatedly explored the clinic agreed and said, "I saw the business card on the window of his car. It seems that something is wrong with my shoulder, so I have to come here to take care of it." The doctor immediately suggested that this guy go straight to the point. So the witness immediately told me that I was obsessed with what happened that night. "I've broken my promise to you, so I probably won't call the police. Although the money was a little small, I missed it anyway. Now I calculate it like that." He was obliged to give me another 30 million. The doctor's name heard it and immediately went to the beginning of the hairwalk, but then he also made a promise. "He'll send you money within this week." So the man was full of joy and nodded politely to say goodbye. But when he was about to walk out the door, this guy immediately made an action to encourage the doctor to try hard. When he came outside, he deliberately talked to the nurse and confessed about the virtue and generosity of the director of the clinic. Therefore, it made Sang Hun tremble with anger all over his body. But when he showed his anger, he suffered a recurrence of the wound caused by his greed. At this time, the doctor received a phone call informing him that the car had been repaired. So he immediately went to check his car. But the clerk did not believe that this car had hit a deer because the lid of the capo was uncovered, while the front of the car is still intact. If it hits the oncoming deer, the front of the car must be damaged. When the doctor's name heard it, he began to raise a suspicion. He quickly ran to the corner where he was staying and proceeded to conduct a search. When he found his coat, the doctor immediately vowed to heaven and earth. And the blue sky has also answered the prayer because the memory card is still in the jacket. Immediately afterwards, Sang Hun immediately reviewed the data of the dash camera and looked for the video when the car was about to hit a person. But the man fell from above, not hit by the car. But why could the squirrel fall from the top? The doctor immediately looked for the camera footage in the back of the car. After the two of them got out of the car, there was a guy standing on the bridge smiling, and that was the witness who was constantly tapping for money. So it made Sang Hun tremble angrily because he was trapped. Immediately afterwards, Sang Hun immediately called his girlfriend and told her. The Tet disaster was all laid out by that bastard. Actually, he didn't hit a passerby. It was because that guy pushed him off the bridge. Or what, that guy came to the clinic and wanted to take another 30 million from him. He thought he was stupid. He didn't kill people anyway, so now just call the police. At best, he was only punished for drunk driving. The girlfriend stopped and said, "It was you who brought that corpse." The name immediately proposed to her lover. "Tell the police that you were threatened by that corpse, so you turned over the body. Then the two of us will be at peace." The girlfriend also promised that I would speak for him and make an appointment to meet to agree on his testimony. Then, when the name Sang-hun waited at the meeting point, then the wandering girlfriend also drove to, and refused to get on my lover's car because I was obsessed with that car. So the doctor immediately got into his girlfriend's car. After that, the wandering girl also watched the video again, and seeing the face of the witness appear on the overpass. So I immediately deduced that the guy was waiting for my car to pass by and threw the corpse down. But how did he know for sure that we were going to run over there? The doctor immediately said that it was because of my depression. But only you and I know that we are passing by that place. The lover immediately took off the mask and called the doctor's name Farid Boy, naturally dragged me out here to listen to this crap story. Do you know that your mouth is like a corner? Look at the ball with your eyes. The guys who want to invite me to the disco for a drink are waiting in line. Do you think this child is very grooved? Or why are you sitting here playing with me? The name of the doctor immediately took care of the girlfriend and said, "Who do you think you are that you dare to look down on me?" At this time, there was a person pouring medicine into the towel. Then he got into the car and that was the witness. When the doctor was about to make a move, he injected anesthesia into his nose. So the Duong girl also joined forces with this accomplice. When the doctor agreed, he fell into a coma. Well, the ex-lover immediately used a drawstring to tie his hands. And it wasn't enough to have been strangled by him just now. The oligarch sitting behind us asked us to take this Farid man back to our hometown for processing. But unexpectedly, at this time, the detective couple was also taking these pictures, and drive to secretly follow behind. At this time, Ayang also asked how to deal with this idiot. Bring him away. The oligarch immediately agreed with this opinion because he had seen my face. Aduong also suggested that the story be made up. This idiot disappeared because he was threatened by creditors. And the car of the other couple is also continuing to follow. After a while, Aduong also drove to a land near an abandoned building. The oligarch immediately took down 2 sparrows, and suggested that you dig a hand to get back quickly. I immediately told you that I had just finished my nails, but the oligarch still asked me to work. So I immediately got out of the car. When she saw the abandoned house, she immediately happily remembered the memories of the old days. At this time, the doctor who agreed was also showing signs of waking up. After a while, after the hole gradually appeared, Sung-hun also opened his eyes and woke up, and moved the person to the steering position of the car. At this time, Aduong was joking and pushing the oligarch into the hole. The doctor immediately brushed off the steering lever of the car and used his eyes full of resentment when he had been deceived by that scum child from beginning to end. So Sung-hun immediately accelerated the car and hit his ex-lover hard and repeatedly stepped on the accelerator to crush her into a woman. After that, the doctor also came out loudly and shouted, "Mistress." And the oligarch was still healthy and took the sparrow. Realizing that he could not remove the bright wire, the doctor immediately ran away and pleaded, "If you let me go, they'll give you another 50 million troops." The oligarch immediately asked to transfer the money immediately, but the doctor's hand announced that he needed to borrow money, so he immediately received a lobby from the oligarch. When the doctor continued to beg for his life, the oligarch immediately told women that their legs were weak and their hands were weak. Fortunately, he danced like that and he even begged me to spare his life. Although the doctor kept begging, the oligarch also threw a powerful blow. And using the hall to take her life, the doctor agreed to teach this girl, and these images have also been taken. When he turned the doctor's body into a dance like his comrades. Then the oligarch also stopped his hand and dragged the body of the doctor's hand to the hole. And the dragon Azu also once caused a bad thing when he was alive. When I was in high school, I was constantly jealous of my friend Lee Ju-jon, because she is always eyed by handsome seniors in school. He even invited Ju-jon to be the face of the school. Although Azu Rong always wants to aim for that position, it makes my whole body tremble angrily. And when her friend Ju-jon has become the face of QH High School, then Ji-rong tried to approach Ju-jon to congratulate her, and invite the goat to join the group I watching this Saturday, because the boys kept seeing her picture and jumped up. So just ask me to introduce her to them. See you at 4 o'clock this Saturday at a cafe near my school. Realizing that Ju-jon was very sincere, Ju-jon also nodded in agreement. But that night, Azu Rong smiled happily next to her friend Ju-jon, who was unconscious, and wished the 3 masked guys have fun. After that, these 3 guys also woke up Ju-jon to wake up, and join forces to leave the game with this female friend. Returning to the present suddenly at this time at an abandoned building. Someone had spilled gasoline all over the building, and the villain was tied up. And the petrol dropper also set the house on fire, causing the house to be engulfed in flames. After a while, firefighters also appeared to fight the fire, and saw a body that had been burned black. Later, he rescued a person who was seriously burned and took him to the hospital. But the identity of this victim has not been identified. Dr. Young Min and Dr. Ju John conducted an examination and first aid for this victim, and he did wear a Rolex watch. Dr. Ju John began to use beautiful salt water to disinfect the wound. It caused the patient to have pain all over his body. The next day, Dr. Ju John examined a patient and refused to give him any more painkillers. This man immediately threw the glass away. A white-haired man who was present in the hospital room immediately came to pinch the patient's wound and suggested that he apologize to the doctor. So the patient also spoke up to ask the doctor for forgiveness. The doctor also explained the reason for not allowing this patient to abuse painkillers and asked the white-haired uncle not to treat the patient like that. It was so painful that he acted like that. The white-haired uncle immediately reminded the doctor about the scratches on his face. Then when the doctor walked out, this man immediately followed the doctor and said, seeing that her face was so gloomy, it seemed that she was in some difficulty, right? If you need to solve any problems or want to find someone, please contact me. The doctor also took this man's business card and put it in his pocket. At this time, the doctor received a message again. So he immediately went to the hospital room of the patient who had just survived the fire. Mr. Windmaster examined the patient but did not see the patient's name. So the patient also told me that my name was Uncle Goat Dong. The doctor heard this name and immediately hesitated, until asked by Dr. Dong Min to go out. Then the doctor wrote this full name on the paper. The goat patient also thanked the doctor for saving his life. Then the doctor wandered out. Then he was complained by the Windmaster about his lack of concentration at work. After a while, Dr. Dong Min immediately asked about the condition of the complaint, and suggested that her lover, if anything happened, she had to tell him right away. But the wanderer just walked silently. Then he lured back to the doctor's room. When she remembered the patient named Uncle Dong Dong, it made the doctor constantly gasp. So you have to take sedatives to regain your composure. Then the doctor threw the glass into the mirror with a hateful face. Du Dan immediately searched for the hospitalization information of that male goat patient and print out this person's information. At this time, Dr. Dong Min also came and read the treatment records of the patient of the goat. My lover also said that I wanted to check some information, but my lover was still extremely curious. At this time, the doctor received a phone call again, and Dong Min also promised to go there right away. So the lover immediately announced that he had urgent work to go and reminded him of the appointment tonight. In the evening, the doctor still did not stop thinking about the file of the person named Uncle Da Dong. Then the doctor decided to put it away and took out the business card that the white-haired uncle had given him. The next morning, the invitation immediately went to the uncle's company to hide the hook. The doctor also saw a photo of this man who used to be a police officer. After that, he offered to give a deposit to pay the remuneration. Next, I handed out a piece of paper and asked him to find the people named in this paper to help me. I want to know where they are now and how they live. The uncle was quite apprehensive when he received 5 million won and only did a simple job like this. But the doctor insisted that I only needed that information. After that, the doctor also walked out and passed by a couple of men and women. And it turns out that this detective couple is the employee of the uncle. At this time, he also called Mr. Tan Chatsong to ask him to find some help. In the evening, Mr. Tan Chatsong also drove to meet his former police officer. Then he gave him a file containing the information of the people who were searched. Then he asked why he naturally wanted to find the criminals. That incident once shook the whole town of Guhyu. After that, this father also drove away. The detective began to look at the investigation report of the case. A female student of Guhyu High School was gang-raped in 2005. The suspects are Park Jae-jong, Ju Tae-jun and Jang Jongseon, and the victim is Ko Lee Jujin. And in the old days, Jujin listened to his friend Jujin and sat and waited at a cafe. After a while, Park Jae-jong, a senior in grade 12, also came to do an eye exam. Evening came when they both walked out in the snow. Then the senior immediately grabbed Jujin's hand to help her keep warm. After chatting together for a while, the street lights were also turned off because it was past 10 o'clock at night. So the two quickly walked out, but were stopped by two masked men. One of them immediately threw a kick at his senior Park Jae-jong and repeatedly kicked him. And Jujin was replaced by his son's name. When the incident happened, the two masked men were also identified and taken to the interrogation room. But the third person to enter was the senior Park Jae-jong. Surprising Jujin, the policeman immediately revealed. The person behind this case is my upperclassman Park Jae-jong. And he also deliberately looked through the glass to see who was sitting outside. This made the schoolgirl Jujin severely shocked. At this time, Dr. Jujin also went into the hospital room of patient Park Jae-jong. He was also constantly suffering from burning pains from burns. Jujin also sat down next to the hospital bed but received a phone call from Detective John Mok. Of the three suspects in the past, Ju Tae-jun went to prison many times for theft and coercion. 3 years ago he was found dead in prison. I heard that he had many difficulties living in prison because of his sick hobbies. As for the name Jang Jongseon, there is a lot of history of using my tui. So he died last year from a drug overdose. This could be considered a karma for him. The doctor immediately looked at the patient's name in the field on the bed and asked about Park Jae-jong's name. The detective also said he was the only one alive until now. Since that incident, he has lived quite quietly. He wandered around and still didn't have a stable job. As far as I know, he's in Payu City, not in this city. In order for me to send his address to her, the doctor also determined that this patient is not a near-sebaceous man in the past. So I immediately called and asked the nurse to bring painkillers. And the patient also opened his eyes to look at the doctor. The dream sheet the next morning, the detective received a phone call from Mr. Tan Cha-kong again, announcing an important news about the current whereabouts of Park Jae-jong. Dr. Ju John asked his lover why he hadn't called me these days. Did you secretly do something dirty with me? Dr. Ju Min immediately told his relatives to ask him to come to his house for medical examination. I just went to work to earn more money, so that the two of us would have a decent home in the future. So her lover also smiled when she heard these words. Suddenly, Ju John receives a phone call from the detective. So he immediately got up to answer the phone. The detective corrected Park Jae-jong's information. He wasn't in Payu City right now. The current name Park Jae-jong is next to the doctor. The patient in room 402 is Park Jae-jong. He was the only survivor of the fire in the abandoned building. At this time, Park Jae-jong also sat up and dragged over to look at his pathetic appearance in the mirror. But he smiled again, and the doctor had already arrived at the door of the room and shed tears when he was about to face his enemy. After hesitating for a while, Ju John was also about to open the door, but at this time Mr. Tan Cha-kong came too, and the announcement wants to ask Park Jae-jong about the fire at the abandoned building. So the doctor also left so that the police could meet the patient's name inside. Mr. Tan Cha-kong asked a few questions and announced that he would film the process. When the police asked why he was in the abandoned building, then Jae-jong told me that I was kidnapped there. As soon as I got into the car, I was shot by an anesthetic from behind. When I opened my eyes and woke up, I found myself in that abandoned house with my hands and feet tied to a chair. It seemed that there were two people fighting in front of me. Maybe they were wondering if they should kill me to kill me. Then there was a man under gasoline all over the building and made gasoline on my head as well. After that, the person also set fire to the building. Since then, I don't remember anything. Brother Ching's father immediately asked to be identified by fingerprints. So Jae-jong immediately showed his 10 burned fingertips. So the policeman also shook his head because he couldn't get fingerprints. This policeman also announced that his aunt had contacted us. She also said she would come here to visit him. After that, the two policemen also left. Jae-jong started to worry and called to ask to see a doctor. At this time, Dr. Ju John was also taking out one of her scalpels. After that, he went to open the door of Uncle Jae-jong's room. But he was nowhere to be found, but then he also came out of the toilet. Ju John immediately told me that I had tried to forget about him. But why do you keep haunting me? This guy immediately laughed and said, I also didn't expect that she would work here. Ju John, the old girl, has now become a doctor. It has been 20 years since we were reunited. Sit near me again and tell me how I have lived all these years. The doctor immediately put his hand in his pocket, then stabbed the knife right into the man's neck artery and said, I always dreamed of stabbing him in the neck. After that, the doctor continued to do many more strokes to get rid of the hatred for the past few decades. But that was just the doctor's wish. because at this time Jay Jong also came to say goodbye to the nurse and was about to leave. Then thanked the doctor for treating her. When Ju John asked, the nurse also told him to be discharged from the hospital today. He had previously told the professor that he wanted to be treated for extracurriculars. After all, he had been on painkillers for more than a month. When Ju John had just left, an aunt came to inform the nurse. The clothes that my husband was going to wear to be discharged from the hospital have disappeared. The doctor followed Jae Jong to the elevator and blocked the elevator door. But this guy didn't recognize Ju John. After that, he also asked the doctor to enter the elevator. Ju John also thinks that this guy is deliberately not recognizing him, and affirmed that I am the one who knows you better than anyone in this world. Jae Jong immediately took off his mask and approached his face so that Ju John could see his face clearly and said, "If you look closely, do you know who I am? Listen carefully. The Uncle Jae Jong you once knew was no longer in this world. If you don't have the courage to look at this face, then don't pretend to be an acquaintance." After that, he also walked out of the elevator. And Ju John still hasn't had time to calm down. After a while, the doctor also decided to chase. But Jae Jong stepped into a taxi. Ju John immediately blocked the head of this taxi. Then he said to Uncle Jae Jong, "Since that day, I have not slept peacefully at night. It was all caused by him. I just want to sleep well and not dream anymore, even if it's just for one night." He laughed and scolded the doctor for being crazy and asked the driver to keep driving. And Ju John watched and promised to kill that Jae Jong with his own hands. Later, when Ju John returned to the hospital, she met her lover. When they sat down to talk together, Ju John also asked, "Have you ever hated someone so much that you wanted to kill them in your life?" Dr. Dong Min immediately asked if it was Uncle Jae Jong, right? But her lover just smiled and said no. "Maybe it's because I'm not in a good mood lately, so my speech is a little messy." After that, the lover also went to the hospital but couldn't help but think about the things that the lover had just said. When he sat in the taxi, Jae Jong was constantly in pain, so he immediately took out painkillers to drink. When the driver adjusted the rearview mirror to his face, this guy immediately warned him. So the driver immediately turned the mirror away. He immediately wondered why everything was so lied to. It was all at that evening. And that evening when the Oriental medicine doctor and his friend Ju Jong were in the abandoned house. Then this guy put on a jacket and wore the intellectual glasses of the doctor's hand. After that, she drove her friend Ju Jong to a parking lot. Then proceeded to occupy the expensive car of the hand of the Oriental medicine doctor who had stopped breathing. And unexpectedly, the doctor named Sang Hun had a wife. And it was she who asked Detective John Mok to collect evidence of her husband's and the mistress' infidelity. And this wife is also pregnant and is about to give birth. And the night before, the two detectives had rushed to the office to meet their uncle. The detective immediately rushed in and showed him the pictures of the Oriental medicine doctor. And he was stabbed in the body by another man to end his life. At 10 o'clock before the fire, the villain called the shipman. And he made an appointment to meet at 8 p.m. to deliver the money and ask the Chinese man to arrive at the meeting point on time. So after that, this guy also called to arrange a place to board the train back to China at 2 a.m. Suddenly, the man who had just killed the hand of the Oriental medicine doctor drove to find him and began to say hello to reunite together. And it turned out that 6 months ago, at that time, this guy was already a big gang in prison and was about to be released. The shipman is also a prisoner in the middle of the cell and will be released in a month. If there is a delicious candy, we will cooperate together. After that, the big man of the cell was also released from the prison. And the Chinese man also grabbed a piece of paper with his phone number, the name of the captain, as he walked out of the prison. After being personally driven by her sister to pick them up, the two immediately laid out a plan. In order to take advantage of guys who have rabbit guts but are greedy for girls to make money. Since then, a duong will have the task of baiting men who love beautiful girls when they have caught their prey. Then a duong will go with this person to the hotel and the big man will burst into the room to fight jealousy. A duong will play the role of the victim and call her husband. So the big guy will proceed to sweep out the pockets of this greedy girl. He even forced him to play the role of money on the app to transfer money to him. Just like that, the two continue to coordinate together to bring other prey into the net. Even those are rich bosses who don't want their affair with girls to be exposed. Immediately afterwards, a duong also pocketed 50 million sweet guan, so I immediately continued to look for new prey. At that time, the big guy received a phone call from a strange phone number, and that was the Chinese guy, so the big guy went out to answer the phone. And gliding past the hand of the Oriental medicine doctor who was lulled with bait. The new Chinese guy calling his old prisoner friend together is a very bargain mission. Immediately afterwards, the big man drove over to help him get into the car. The shipyard guy also announced that this mission was 200 million. And pointing in the direction of the Son of Heaven who was sitting in the restaurant. The big guy also realized that when he was a child, he was in the same neighborhood as me. When he was a child, he was just as disruptive as me. Unexpectedly, now that he has grown up to be his old man, he also dares to kill him. What a villain. And that evening the father of the adversary was also at church to ask God for forgiveness. And tell Ms. Son that my son has done something terrible that cannot be forgiven. I think prayer alone is not enough. I had to give everything to pray for God to be gentle and forgive my son. Then when the father walked away, then my friend ran out and asked if this week was his birthday, right? We've prepared a small party for you. But the father still refused because of his concern and asked for permission to leave. After a while, this aunt decided to get the ice cream cake for him to take home. Then when the father walked down the dark alley, then the big man and the shipman also determined that this was the one who needed to take action. So the big man left the engine of the car and hit his father directly, causing him to fly to the back of the car. Noticing that he could still sit up, the big man backed up to take another shot. The Chinese man immediately stepped down to check on the subject's condition, and found that an ant had seen everything, so she immediately chased after her. But she managed to escape, and at this time the big man realized that the subject was still alive, because there were witnesses to the incident. So the big man immediately suggested that the old man who lived like a plate should be neatly dealt with to clean up the scene. And they also carried the old man into the car and drove away. After that, the Chinese man cut off all the sources of his father's breathing with his hands. At this time, the big man received a phone call from Ah Duong. And the old victim also died from asphyxiation. The Chinese man immediately promised to divide the money with the big man if he arranged this smoothly. At that time, the Oriental medicine doctor was also very drunk. So I tried to call the big guy and sent him a picture of the hand of the Oriental medicine doctor who fell asleep at the hotel. So the big man immediately came up with a plan and promised the Chinese guy that he would take care of the rest. After that, the big man called Duong to announce that he would not come to fight his liver, which will lay out a plan to make even more money. At that moment, he noticed a man wearing a warm coat and earrings, and start disseminating the plan so that the road can coordinate its implementation. After that, the big man also bought the coat and earrings of the man on the street. After a while, the big man carried the victim on the overpass, and received a message from Ah Duong announcing that it was about to arrive. So this guy watched the right time and threw the old victim into the doctor's car to agree, returning to the time 6 hours before the fire occurred. Then the big man drove the Chinese man away and planned to take 200 million from the eunuch. At the same time, the police also found the body of the police officer who had been killed by the Chinese man. A police officer came to report to the captain about the security camera nearby. After a while, the captain also arrived at the junkyard to search the place where the Chinese man had been and find the base of the old victim. At the same time, the victim's son was also renting a car. After that, he loaded a book bag into the back of the car and prepared a hammer in his hand. He also practiced to master it and announced that he would end his relationship with the Chinese of Korean descent. And he also timed the exact time for the plan to take place. When the time was up, he would swing the hammer to see off the Chinese man on his way. When the Chinese man appeared, he hid the hammer and asked him to get in the car. When the villain asked for a tape recorder, the Chinese man immediately asked where the money was. So the villain immediately announced that he would drive him to the place where the money was stored. And the big man also drove to follow behind. As he was driving, he encountered a police checkpoint, so the trainman pulled down his hat. After that, the police stopped the front of the car and asked the man in the seat next to him to take off his hat. The adversary immediately asked why the police were checking so harshly. The policeman also said that he had found 2 bodies lying on the ground. This is the axis of the suspect. The Chinese man also recognized the face of the big man on the wanted leaflet. That's why the big guy also knew this information, so he immediately abandoned the car and ran up the mountain to avoid the police checkpoint. Brother Tan Cha Kong also received the report. The victim's car was found at the entrance to Guhyu City. Currently, the suspect is fleeing to the mountain, so Mr. Tan Cha Kong and his subordinates immediately set off to it. After a while, the villain also drove to the abandoned building, because this is the place he used to go to play when he was in school. He also pressed the button to open the trunk of the car and announced, "The karma between me and you has come to an end." He immediately stepped out from the back of the car and set the alarm time on his phone. Then he took the book bag and handed it to the Chinese man. He immediately opened the book bag to check it and found that it was all paper. At this time, the phone also rings to attract attention. So the villain immediately swung the hammer according to the plan, causing the car to shake up. But how could he resist the danger of the shipment? So he grabbed his hair and kept swinging the hammer in his face. When the villain tried to crawl out of the car, the Chinese man received a phone call from the captain. After a while, the Chinese man also slammed the villain into the chair. And the big man also came to the place and noticed his image. He is wanted everywhere for having recovered 2 bodies. So he was extremely angry when his face was exposed. The shipman immediately invited the big man to get on the boat and flee to China after getting the money. Suddenly, the big man looked in the direction of the guy who was dazzling on the chair. And realizing that he was the same height as me, the big man immediately smiled. Then when the Chinese man took the hammer to deal with the other antagonist. Then the big man immediately broke the bottle and broke through his servants. The steamer also used the remaining vapor to resist. Then he received another blow from his accomplice and was pushed to the ground by him. After that, the villain also woke up and saw the big man holding his ID card. The big man put on the villain's robe and confiscated his Rolex watch. Then announced, "I'm going to be you. From this moment on, I will be Park Jae-jong." And it turns out that the new villain is the real Park Jae-jong. After a while, the big man proceeded to pour gasoline all over the building, and even on the body of the accomplice who was lying below. The villain promised to give him the money when the insurance was approved. But the big guy still gave Jae-jong a gasoline bath. The big man also revealed that he was Jae-jong Sr. at Guhyu High School in the old days. After that, he put on glasses for the villain and set the building on fire. Then he threw down the casting stick to the shipman who had been his accomplice. After that, the big man threw the lighter to help Park Jae-jong really disappear from this world. But he didn't know that there were gas cylinders that were being taken over by fire. So just as he was about to walk out to start a new life, an explosion occurred, causing the big man to be crushed and unable to escape. And the fire also slowly swallowed this fake Park Jae-jong. At this time, he also woke up in the taxi when he remembered that painful memory. The driver also announced that he had arrived. So this big guy immediately stood in front of the building where Jae-jong was actually staying. After that, the big man also used the magnetic card to open the apartment door and feel that the house is no different from a pigsty. He immediately put painkillers in his mouth and then poured some golden milk. But it was all ashtrays inside. After a while, he began to memorize Park Jae-jong's real citizen ID number, then fell asleep. The doctor opened the cabinet containing the hospital's powerful painkillers and took out a vial. Later, when the traveler called Detective John Mock, he immediately asked, "Why did you transfer me 3 million won?" The traveler immediately said that the money was all I had. Ask me to do something for me. The next morning, Jae-jong's phone also received a call from the insurance company. The big man immediately answered the phone. Then the head of the department announced that his father's insurance application had been resolved, and in the process of paying. This guy was extremely happy when he heard it. After that, the debtor country asks how to receive the money. "Let me send you my new account number." But the head of the department announced that a problem had arisen. A week before the accident, his father had changed the beneficiary to another person, and he also left a will. Please contact the defender to see how they deal with it. The big man immediately left the house and collided with the detective. The detective immediately helped him wipe off the coffee stains on his clothes. When this guy left, the detective followed him to return the vial he had dropped. So this guy also snatched the medicine bottle without any doubt. And his real potion was in the detective's hands. The big man took a taxi to Guhyu Church. Then he went into the cathedral and demanded back the insurance money that the old man had left behind. After that, the sister also came out and said, when he was alive, his father also said that he would come here after he died. I think you should respect your father's decision. The big man immediately loudly demanded back the insurance money that the old man had left behind. But she told me I wouldn't give you the money. His father left a wish that all the money would be used to donate to the church and patients in the nursing home. I hope you respect his decision. The big man immediately showed his pathetic face and said, Is there anyone as miserable as me now? While I was still talking kindly, hurry up and pay me here immediately. She immediately opened the recording to record the words of her late father. He had predicted that if my son knew about this, then he will definitely go to the church to make a story. But I still hope that one day he will repent. I assure you that I am recording in full sanity. And no one forced it. The big man immediately whispered. It is true that from the father to the son, they are equally evil. Suddenly, he saw that the doctor was also here, so he immediately asked, Are you following me to spy on me? Tell me what I have to do with you. But the tourists only looked at him with hateful eyes. Suddenly, he was in pain again. So she immediately took the medicine out in front of the doctor and used the water of the church to drink medicine. Then he announced that he would continue to come back here and then walk out. After that, he also confirmed that he would get the money back. But his body began to show signs of exhaustion again. After a while, he suddenly had a severe headache. When going to an alley, then he immediately remembered the image of the victim's old man falling, and remembered that he had reversed the car to hit the old man again. So he immediately laughed because he thought that he had been haunted by the old man's spirit. Suddenly, the traveling doctor appeared in the background. He was extremely surprised by this plate-like stickiness. He also revealed that I really wasn't a goat. Since he was already dead, I didn't know who you were before. The tourist immediately asked why he was screaming for insurance money at the church just now. Then you said that you are the son of the twin uncles. At this time, he had a headache and was seriously disturbed. But the doctor still thinks that he is a lion goat and still has guava as before. This guy immediately grabbed the doctor's hair. But he didn't have the strength to do anything and fell to the ground. The doctor immediately took out the scalpel and told him to pile it up to finish. Suddenly, Dr. Dong Min appeared and spoke up to advise her lover. It's not worth it for me to have to trade everything. I already know everything and know what I have to go through. He asked an acquaintance to investigate the history of the goat. Because I'm worried about you as my current boyfriend. I understand your feelings because I want to kill him myself. But don't ruin everything you have strived for because of him. Following him back to travel, the doctor burst into tears and let go of the knife on the ground. The big man also told him to let go and keep going. Seeing this guy laughing, so the traveler immediately came and hit him in the face repeatedly. The lover also let the tourists get a little bit of anger. The doctor also said that if I have a little, I will not forget your face. After that, his lover also drove the tourists out of Guhyu City. After that, the doctor received a phone call. So Dong Min also announced that he was busy now and told the tourists, My uncle was naturally sick, but now I want to be with you. The traveler immediately asked his lover to hurry up and go there. As a doctor, you can't abandon patients. I'm fine, go over there and take care of my uncle. And the big man also vomited the amount of medicine he had taken. You should start to regain balance. The father and his subordinates listened to the recording of Park Jae-jong's testimony and felt suspicious when he said that he was tied to a chair. While the charred corpse was the one who was tied to the chair, the subordinate police officer also said that it would take at least 2 weeks to compare DNA. Only then did he find out the identity of the charred corpse. So he immediately asked to take a DNA sample of the burned man. At this time, the big man also dragged back to the real Park Jae-jong's house. He was about to take out the medicine to drink when he noticed an abnormal color from the pill. So I immediately compared it with one and used medicine box and found that the two were not the same color. So he immediately remembered to save the collision with the white-haired old man. And he was very angry when he had beaten him with porridge. After that, I also put real medicine in the gum to control the pain. At this time, he received a phone call from his father, offered to come to the house to take testimony as a witness. He immediately refused and patted the phone, so the father immediately asked the policeman to speed up immediately. The big man now also packs up his belongings to escape and get Park Jae-jong's passport. He continued to search and saw the image representing the school of the old schoolgirl Ju-jon. He immediately remembered the old days when he went to the karaoke room to gather. Then Ju-jon's face was as mysterious as a group. And it tells the story of a beautiful little boy who stole the souls of the boys at school. Then showed a picture of Ju-jon who made the image to represent the school. At that time, the big singer was also very interested in Ju-jon's fabric. But because he had just been rehabilitated, he couldn't do dirty things. So he asked little Ju-jon to find strange boys who crave girls at my school, then give them a chance to deal with that beautiful child. At this time, the big man also found out that the doctor was an old acquaintance. After that, the police also came to knock on the door of the house. The father immediately used a fire extinguisher to break the door, but there was no one inside because the big man had managed to escape from the house. Mr. Tancha immediately asked to take a sample from the medicine bottle to compare it with the DNA sample from the car that Uncle John rented. Just by comparing those two samples, you can know whether there is the same person or not. At this time, the big man was also sitting at a bus stop. Suddenly, Uncle John's phone announced that it was time to pay the debt. But he thought that it was the flagged man's birthday. Suddenly a car came over. The barehead men proceeded to catch the cow and duplicate the head of this man and threw him on the car. Now, Dr. Young-min is also sitting on the street and received a call from her lover. Tourists said that every night she dreamed the same dream. I dreamed that I had stabbed Uncle John's name over and over again. In my dream, I killed him 1,000 times. But it never made me happy. If I really stabbed him today, I wouldn't be happy either. It's all my choice, so don't blame yourself. Young-min immediately suggested that tourists get a good night's sleep and don't worry about anything. When the engine was plugged in, a car came to help the doctor get into the car. And the tourists decided to put away their scalpels. After a while, Young-min is taken to a mysterious place and enters a frozen warehouse. And that is his slaughterhouse that lends and trades organs. Mr. Chung also asked, I heard that he only finished today. Didn't my ministry treat you well? Young-min immediately said that because I saw that it was time for me to quit my job. Thanks to this job, I was able to cover the tuition fees. And also save money to prepare to marry his wife. So Mr. Chung immediately gave the doctor a gift to say goodbye. After that, he spoke angrily, after finishing work today, you should collect all the things that can go wrong. Because if you spare him, I will kill him. At this time, the big man was also tied up on the operating table. Dr. Young-min in a surgical suit walked in and took off his face scarf and said, I can't believe we meet here again, Park Jae-jong. When the doctor removed the muzzle lock, this guy tried to explain that I was not Park Jae-jong. My name is Kim Bong-joon, and he even reads out the number of his own bases. When Young-min took off his mask, he also realized that this was the doctor who had treated him. The doctor immediately said that when he was in the hospital, he said his name was Park Jae-jong. This guy immediately tried to explain, and then scolded. And when the doctor continued to lock his muzzle, Young-min was about to pick up the anesthetic. But he decided to put it down and said, when he saw his face, then for the first time, I felt that I was right when I chose this part-time job. Just consider this as your karma. After that, the doctor performed a live operation on the man who had committed many of these crimes. The next day, Ju-John wakes up in the doctor's break room to find his lover sitting next to him. Ju-John also told me that I didn't dream anything. What's wrong with your family? Young-min immediately said that everything was fine. I don't need to go there anymore. Let's go eat with you tonight. Ju-John immediately held his lover's hand and said, please come with me to visit my mother because it has been a long time since I came home. So his lover immediately nodded when Ju-John was about to go to work. Then my lover immediately said, now my life is only good things. So Ju-John also thanked his lover when he just walked out. Then he saw that Detective John Mok had been swept away by the water vending machine. So the doctor immediately used force with a machine to solve the detective's problem. The detective announced that there were some minor changes in the case that she asked me to search. But Ju-John refused to accept the file and said that I had no questions now. After that, the doctor also leaves and sets the file that the detective intends to give to Ju-John. It is the result of a DNA comparison that does not match between the real and fake Park Jae-jong. And the detective will also throw away this paper and throw it in the trash. And the gift that Mr. Chung gave to Dr. Young-min was a Rolex watch. After that, Ju-John walked alone in the snow with a face that was much brighter than before.